So far it is. He is putting more tags with the new site. The first site was created in iWeb, which didn't give you a whole lot of organizational, but like he said, he worked with Apple for a while. So I think that's why it was created and even merged over. iWeb doesn't even exist anymore. And now that it looked like a Google site that they were putting together.
Yeah, because thinking about it is in like our educator's sense, like especially coming out of college, it's like I'm used to most like college textbooks, and you know, like,
right.
But I would be looking for middle school reading level, and I don't even know. I've never even tried to look for history at middle school level. You know, I just think of what is the history and how can I apply it, how can I teach that, not like finding authors that have already done it.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Because it's mostly all these high level like articles and things that I need to bring down to their level.
Yep. Exactly. The one thing you might want to look at is inside of that Cultural Institute, one of the things that's in beta right now that you can ask to be part of is create your own museum of artwork. And they're actually asking for public schools. And I talked to Ashley Norman about this last year. So she can literally say, all right, you know, this month we did this project on, and she's got 140 pictures from 3rd grade. She takes pictures of it down the hallway. And basically what it does, just like being street view in the Louvre, you're street view in Coastal Ridge Elementary School looking at children's artwork instead.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of powerful stuff too. But again, it's in beta, so if you're in the community, you get to see it, but it's not live yet. Beta is like the last thing they're testing out before it becomes live for everyone. And so you have to be invited to try it, or they've invited you somehow to try it. It's not mainstream yet. They know there's bugs and kinks, and they're waiting for those people testing it out to provide them with clues of why and change things up. Okay, we'll start here in a second. We're live on air on this one, which means that other people from around the country may join in. I know there's one that from California, one from Louisiana said they'd be here. That doesn't mean they'll be here, but just as a heads up, I'll get that in a second. If you want, while we're waiting, if you would like to hit up this webpage, you can get to it from the detailed session. But if you want to just go quickly to it, I've shortened it. It's a Google shortener, so it's goo.gl. Capital Y, capital G, lowercase h, the number 4, lowercase k, lowercase j. And that'll get you to this quick template. And again, you can access it from the session descriptor detail page from GavePeak as well. Everybody all set with getting to that page? Not yet? Oh, yes, that happens. By the way, all these session descriptors that you see for this year are going to never go away. So last year's GavePeak, you can still look at it. If you go to the descriptor and go all the way to the bottom of the page, it says 2014 archive. We're going to keep doing that for as long as we do this. So if you saw something last year, and you're like, oh, I probably need to know that now before I get to this year. Not that we did it that way, but it might have been something you heard you want to see again. It's always going to be there. Similar with the Google Hangout live on air. The reason why I'm doing it live on air is not just to open it up to everybody in the world, but it automatically saves it to my YouTube channel. So anything that happens today during this hour session that you missed, want to look at again, share with students, whatever the case may be, I'll provide you with a link to the YouTube, and then that way you can look at it on your own time. You can flip the classroom. If there's a particular section you need to hear 3 times, you can play it, pause it, rewind it, do it again, so it's available for you. All right. Okay, so let's start with Google Apps and extensions to make your life easier. Sometimes I use the title to get more people into the session. No, I'm just kidding. The reason why I like extensions is because it does make your life easier. In my mind, tech sometimes can be overused. And what I like to think of it as is if it's used to enhance a lesson that you couldn't already have done without it, or if there's a way that it could speed up productivity, either on the student's end, your end, administrative end, or collaboratively, then that's exactly when to use it. Otherwise, if it's just sort of taking a worksheet, making a digital worksheet, it's not worth it to me. It's a translation step if the goal is to get to the next step, and that's fine. But if you're ending at that translation step, don't bother yourself with the extra stuff. Okay? So let me do a screen share so that the rest of our audience, if there is any, come in. We'll get to see what we're seeing. All right. So from this section, what I'd like to kind of look at is there's some terminology. And being a third grade teacher for 7 years, it sometimes is best to go over the vocabulary of the terminology so that you understand where we're going first. Then I'll show you a couple examples and then get you to play. Does that make sense? Yes. All right. So there's a lot of great resources. In fact, many of the sessions I've been to, that's the great thing about being a presenter. You get to go to these conferences for free because you're presenting, but then you get the whole rest of the workshop for free as well. So I duck in and I steal stuff from people, and they say, go ahead and take it, so it's not really stealing. But a lot of these people have presented with me at different conferences, and they've said, go ahead and use it in your sessions. It helps me, too, because I don't have to keep creating a list, and then, as you saw with the 15,000 titles in Google Lit Trips, if you were here earlier, I don't have to go through and constantly digest that and keep editing it. I just use theirs, and it saves me some time and research. But use those as well. The one I'm really going to work off of actually is my own this time. It's the one that's in bold called List of Apps and Extensions, which when you click on that should bring you to this session with the trendy little Chrome Google bag, which we may actually give away a Chrome bag tomorrow if you stick around. All right, so vocabulary lesson. We're going to mainly talk about Chrome extensions today, so I'm going to come back to that actually. But I also want to talk about apps, labs, bookmarklets, and add-ons. Now don't get overwhelmed or don't get confused. I just want to kind of give you the overview. So we're way up here, and then we're going to zoom right in on the extensions. So apps are standalone. How many people used to have so many bookmarks that they went past your bookmark bar and you literally had to click a button and then there was more bookmarks and it went to the next page of bookmarks, right? We all used to do that. And nowadays, you see tabs up on the top of the screen, right? I'm not afraid to close my tab because I may lose it. We don't bookmark things anymore. There's tabs. Well, apps act as a bookmark, really. Let me show you what I mean. If I open up a new tab and I click on apps, these are apps that I've gathered from the App Store, okay? Everything up there, though, well, on this page especially, not everything, but a lot of the things on this page may look familiar to you, right? The web store, Google Docs, Google Drive, YouTube, Google Search, Gmail, I'm pretty sure everybody's heard of that front row. That's because you've been to those websites. If I click that app, that's all it's doing is it's going to the website. So it's a quick way to get to the website. It's kind of cool for kids because there's an icon and it's picture and it's a little easier than trying to type in things, that kind of thing. But unless you plan on doing a one-click and done, all apps do is get you to a website for the most part. It's a standalone feature, okay? If I jump back, labs are things that are turned on inside of Gmail only. So if I'm inside of Gmail and I click on the gearbox in the top right-hand corner and click on settings, you don't have to do this with me, this is just a walkthrough. Up at the top is labs. And if you click on labs, there are certain things that people have added that aren't readily available in Gmail. Because Gmail was actually a 20% time project. Somebody at Google decided, hey, we should have an email that's live on the web and it should look a lot like Microsoft 365 and blah, blah, blah. And that's what it turned into. It wasn't actually a project. Other people have said, you know what, I love Gmail too, but there's certain things that are missing. Up until last year, the undo send was actually a lab. So you used to send an email in Gmail and I didn't mean to send that. You can't take it back like we could in the old days, first class, right? Where as long as nobody had read it, you could take it back and nobody ever saw it. That's because it was all in-house. With webmail, you're literally sending your email out to California, and then it's going to the person. So the minute you hit send, it's out. You don't own it anymore. The district doesn't own it anymore. They can look into it, but they can't own it anymore, right? With the undo send lab that it used to be, you used to be able to say, I want it to wait 5, 10, 15, or 30 seconds before it actually sends. So it wasn't an undo send. It was literally you click send, and it would be a 30-second timer, so that if you were thinking about something like, oh my gosh, I didn't mean to send that, you'd click undo, and it actually had never sent. That's now part of Gmail. The other lab that I like is called canned responses, especially around conference time. You know, you have that same form letter that's going home with I can't wait to talk to your student about, and there's only a few things you want to fill out. With canned responses, when I go up to compose a new email, I'm sorry for the screen, but if I
go to, and I'm not going to be able to see it with the screen. Yeah, sorry, with the screen, I can't really show you right now, but if I went to, I have a couple things loaded up there, but one of the things with canned responses is you can save a template form letter so that when you open it up, it'll pop up for you, and then you only have to change, you know, parent's name or whatever and click send. And I'll demonstrate that again next week as well. I also have a boomerang lab, which is a send later, so I can compose my email, click send, and it'll literally send it another time. So if I have 30 minutes to get some emails ready, some of you know that I send out an e-newsletter once a month. I'm not actually sending it at whenever you got it. I sent it probably 3 nights ago because I was ready, but I didn't want it to be public until it was a better time for you to read it. So I say send on blah, blah, blah at a certain time. Okay?
So we'll be able to have that
You can do that now. Yep. Yep.
under labs.
So Labs is inside of Gmail. You click on the Gearbox settings and Labs is at the top.
Great.
Okay. Bookmarklets. Bookmarklets is if you're at it's a lot like a bookmark, but it adds a little bit more features. So if you're on a certain website, it's not going to be through the Chrome Web Store, so it's not Google sanctioned. They'll say, hey, if you download this, it'll act sort of like an app, sort of like an extension. It's a bookmarklet. Be careful with these. These can be the ones that sometimes have viruses attached to it. Add-ons. Add-ons. I'm actually doing a session on add-ons tomorrow, and it's because you can do more than 3 sessions on add-ons. It used to be called the Script Gallery. A couple people who are really nerded out about Google Apps have found that, you know, Google Docs and Google Sheets and Google Forms are great, but they're not Microsoft Office, or they're not Numbers, Keynote, and Pages yet. With scripts, or now with what they call add-ons, you can make them do things that you previously couldn't do. So for instance, I just taught or helped facilitate 2 days of Makerspace yesterday for Summer Institute. Everybody took a form, which was an exit ticket. You know, help us evaluate so that when we go to deliver this again in the future, how can we make it better? As soon as they click complete, they received a new email with their certificate of attendance. I did that with an add-on. So we use forms, but then this add-on in the background called Autocrat was what did the mail merge to say, push everything over so that I'm not sitting there typing up all of your professional development the night before, or sharing all of you the same document that hopefully you don't all accidentally edit over each other's. You've probably had that happen before in class. So that's those kinds of things. And again, those really do take up almost an entire session, so that's why I don't want to really get into it today. If you are interested, there's one tomorrow, and again, it'll be live if you have to watch it. Extensions. That's the one that I'm most excited about. I'll pass that on. But extensions work with the Chrome web browser. There's actually extensions for Firefox as well, and Safari, I've been told, is going to come out with these. So you need to keep in mind, one, where you get them, how they interact, and how they're used. Okay? So the Chrome extensions actually come from the Chrome Web Store. And that's where that little trendy bag comes in. So if you click on the Chrome Web Store link, or if you just Google Chrome Web Store, it'll come up in one of the first top searches. This is the Chrome Web Store. We actually have a Chrome Web Store for York schools. As the district domain admin, kids actually land on this first. So they don't get to see everything that the public gets to see. They get to see what we've already said. Here are some great extensions and apps you might want to add. You probably have seen some things and heard of some things in past sessions, but they can scroll down through. Literally, you can go through this store and it will take hours, because it's one of those things like on YouTube, you're going to get onto one thing, you're going to read something else, you're going to go over here, and by the time you're done, you have no idea what you initially looked for, right? That's why I created the list of probably the best things to use. So again, apps are purchased. I say purchased. It's like 97% are free. So you can go ahead and grab them. And by the way, we allow kids to do this right now as well. There's no restrictions on the apps or extensions that they have. And extensions that are free as well. There's 97%. Oh, very rarely is there a cost associated with it. So extensions live up here in your Chrome browser. Now, if you're not signed into Chrome, you're never going to see extensions. It follows the user, not the device. So right now in Chrome, if I go up to the top right-hand screen, I see E. Lawson. And if I were to click it, it says, oh, yeah, you're signed in as elawson@yorkschools.org. Now, keep in mind, I have a personal Gmail. Does everybody else have a personal email as well? Okay. So if I slide over one, I'm logged in as the admin on this window, and I'm logged in as my personal Gmail on this window. What you'll notice is the extensions for my personal email, the extensions as the admin for the domain, and the extensions for my eLawson@York Schools are all different. That's because they follow the user. So if I go to a hotel in Canada and sign in, I wouldn't do this, but sign in to Chrome on the computer in their business office, all my extensions are going to pop up for me. All my bookmarks are going to pop up for me, and anything I previously viewed is going to pop up for me. That's the power of Chrome. Of course, that can also be the things you don't want. Remember, you don't have to sign into Chrome to get to the other Google things, but it does help you out. And to get to extensions, you have to sign into Chrome. So if you haven't signed into Chrome, you click on what Google calls these 3 little hot dogs in the top right-hand corner. They call everything food, by the way. There's a rule at Google, you can never be more than 120 feet away from food. And it is really good food, and it's all you can eat all the time, anytime. In fact, they even have a beer keg there because they've done studies that 1 beer at 3 o'clock makes people work longer. And they don't think about the fact that, oh gosh, it's 3:30, I really got to get going. It's amazing. So if you click, as the Irish call it, 3 hot dogs, on the right side, and then click on settings, this is where you can find out where you're signed in. Some of you just noticed, hey, how did that guy do that where he's scrolling back and forth with all these different users? Right here under people, you can add a person, and you can sign in with all your different Googly things, okay? So I have my admin, I have my ELOS, and I have my Google Teacher Academy one, I have my personal one. Be careful with this. It can get really confusing if you're logged into multiple things on one browser. We talk about separation of professional and personal. If this is one of those things where you're worried about some blending, use one browser to be your personal and one to be your professional. Okay?
How did you go screen to screen and get yours without
So-
clicking up above?
So on a Mac, if you do 4-finger slide bottom to top, you get this little dashboard thing. And at the top of the screen, I have 1, 2, 3 desktops open. And if I click over or hover over to the right, I can add yet another one. It will kill your battery, and it will start to slow down process. But I find, especially with what I have to do, being able to go quickly over to see something and change something on the admin level, go over and read something in the Google Trainer to get back to somebody in my regular email is hugely valid. But if that's going to be a time consumer or you're going to get confused, don't do it.
Well, and that's also nice to know, like as educators, because I've seen so many of my students just swipe to the left, you know, and then they've hidden the screen that they were on, and little, you know, obviously I'm looking for them to be playing games or something. I'm like, okay, swipe to the other screen, but they think they're trying to get something past you. So like if you see the kids going
Right.
back and forth,
And if you ever see kids on the widget screen, that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to hide something from you.
yeah,
Right. Oh, I was just looking at the weather, I
Yeah.
swear. Yeah, sure you were. Why is that page open, right? Okay. This screen is hugely important, and it's probably something that Nick Schumann talked about in his session as well. If you click on the About, it tells you what version of Chrome is running, and it also tells you if there's an update needed. One of the extensions, or many of the extensions we're going to talk about, will have an error message, and sometimes it's because your Chrome web browser isn't up to speed. If it's not up to speed, you can say yes, and then you can also say, please set this to automatically update. So again, that was under the 3 hot dogs on the right, settings, and then About.
Oh, is it under people? It's to the left.
Nope, it's on the left underneath Chrome.
Oh.
Should we
Oh.
click on set automatic updates?
I would. Yeah, it never hurts. The other thing that we'll come back to, but I want to, while we're here, show you where it is extensions on the left-hand side. Like I said, extensions can kill your battery, but it also can make it efficient. What I'm going to do is show you more than the amount of extensions you want to install. So don't install them all. Okay. In fact, they claim you should only have 5 to 7 at the very max extensions. You can see I'm a real rule follower. Okay. Don't do it, but it's for presentation. Here is where you can limit your extensions though, or change them up, and I'll show you why in a second. But this is where if you install something, and all of a sudden your computer's going dead, or something's happening, you can get rid of it. Okay. We'll come back, but I wanted to show you where it is. Everybody comfortable with our little vocabulary lesson? I jumped quick and it was a high level, but we okay?
Yes.
All right. So you certainly can play along and grab extensions as you go, but what I will say right off the bat is the demo that I'm going to do is going to go faster than it's possible for you to download it, accept it, and then try it out. So you may want to watch, take away your favorite 5 and try those, or 1, start small, right? Baby steps. Yep. Sometimes I get ahead of myself too, as you can see. All right. So inside the Chrome Web Store, like I said, you can shop forever and you may be lost. What I would suggest you do is take a look at this list. I have a table of contents. So there's things like assistive technologies or security or ad blocking, things like that. And then huge lists of how to get them, what it affects mostly, and what it does. And if you see anything on the list that no longer applies, let me know. If you see something that's not on the list that you think I should add, please let me know. Okay? As a rule of thumb, these should be at the top of your Chrome web browser, with the exception of this one. You should see these 4 right now, because as the domain level administrator, I forced them out to you. Which is kind of cool, because if you want your kids to have it, rather than saying, hey, you should go and download that, and you should go download that, you can say, hey, is there any chance you could just blow this out to the entire 5th grade population? Yep, done, try it. Open up the Chromebook, close it down, it's there. Pretty simple. So let me talk about those few first, because there's a reason why I forced them out for you. The first one is this little stop sign with ABP, and it's AdBlock Plus. How many of you have been on YouTube, love a video, but realize or have accidentally realized that when you go to share that or use it in the lesson plan, there's, I'm going to say, crap that you didn't see prior to that is now showing up on your screen, right? It happens all the time. There is lots in that list of things you can do to help you with YouTube. Because we know that if you download the video or if you somehow embed the video onto your website, it gets rid of some of that other stuff that YouTube can do. But honestly, who has that time? So there are things like blackout, which literally blacks everything but the YouTube video out, so they can't see anything else around it. There's this one, which is called AdBlock Plus. If you start playing a YouTube video, how many of you, about 13 seconds in, something pops up on the screen? Yeah, it's Google's way of trying to get some money out of free products. The AdBlock Plus has gotten rid of that. So if you go to your personal Gmail and you're watching YouTube, you're going to get that 13-second, whoa, what's that? But if you go back to your York schools, you shouldn't. That's why I forced it out. Okay.
Is that a free?
Yep. Everything I'm going to show you is free. Yep. I'm not going to show you anything that costs money unless I'm ready to pay for everybody, which I'm not. So. Let me get to a better example of how the next one could be used. If I go to, all right, I'm going to do it. Common Core State Standards Explained. Hopefully this is a really long article. Oh, I didn't mean to click video. Let's try that one. Yeah, it's not that long, but it'll do. Okay, so how many times have you gotten the email that says, all right, I need you to read this and get ready for a conversation at our team meeting or at the staff meeting, and you're thinking to yourself, no, it's too nice of a day to be doing that, right? And I'll pretend somehow I read it. I used to force out one called TLDR, too long, didn't read, okay? And I believe, yeah, I had to get rid of it. It's a little sloth. And it used to provide cliff notes. It literally would run down through the entire article and give you a quick summary. So that way you can say, yeah, I looked it over. And, can you summarize it? I certainly can. Yeah, it's right here. And you had 3 different variables. It was really short, medium, or long. And quite literally would take all that information and digest it. Well, they haven't been able to keep up with everything that Google's doing, and it no longer works. So I had to get rid of it. So again, what did I do for that? Click on those 3 hot dogs. Whoops, not about. Try that again. Settings, extensions, and I roll down through. I'm not going to see it now, of course. Yeah. Anyway, let's pretend this said TLDR on it. Right next to where it says enabled, you uncheck it to disable it. Okay. Since it was a forced out app, I had to unforce it myself.
If we have it on ours, should we do the same thing?
Yes. You won't have it though, because I forced it out to you and then I unforced it back.
I have
You
it.
do have it still?
I do too.
All right, I'll double check that then. TLDR, too long didn't read. It doesn't work. It doesn't hurt to have it, but it's taking up space for another extension you could be using.
I think I put it on when I was in.
Yeah, it can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how you would disable it. Now, here's my theory. TLDR was so good. I use it all the time. But I just want to disable it. I don't want to delete it, which would be the little trash can. It's okay if you do. It's free. It's not going to charge you anything. But I don't want to delete it for my personal reasons, because what if it starts working again? I literally just have to go back through here, check enable, and it's working again. If I delete it, I have to remember the name of it. I have to go back into the Chrome Web Store. I have to go search for it, and I have to pull it back down. Time waster. Okay? It's okay, Deb. I'll get it back for you. I'll force it back out when it starts working again.
Okay.
But, oh, man, that was such a great app. What do we do now, right? There is, let me get that same article back. There is a new extension that I've used that I learned about in Canada called Matter. And literally, it's a highlighter that when you click it, it just highlights the stuff you needed to know.
What's the name of it? I'm sorry.
Matter.
Is it forced down here on ours?
No.
Oh, it's
No, I'm still testing it out.
okay.
Oh, so we can't even get it?
No, you can. You can try anything else. Just be careful. What I will say is it obviously is an algorithm. So is it going to be false proof? No. Obviously, it's going to make some mistakes and it's going to highlight something you didn't need to read or vice versa. You certainly don't want to show kids this because they're never going to read all of anything anymore, right? But it's there for you if you need to. One of the other ones that we force out is called Clearly. How many times have you gotten to the website, and this is not a great example, but there's stuff on the right side. If you go down through, what was on the top banner was fine, and then all of a sudden, it's whatever the Ashley Madison interactive map or something that's not exactly what you want kids to be looking at. So this little Pixar lamp, which is called Clearly, wipes the article clean. So it just gives you the article.
That's wonderful.
Now, as we go to less paper, I'm not going to say paperless, but as we go to less paper, this feature probably is going to start to go away. But here's where you could print just the article without getting all that other stuff, and it certainly isn't going to send to a color printer if you have to print. If it's an article, by the way, if you haven't used Newsela, you probably should check that out. It's a website that takes current event articles and has Lexile levels. So you can quite honestly deliver one article to your entire class, but individually give it to their reading level. With a premium edition, you can also quiz them at their Lexile level, but that's $10 a kid and we haven't gotten there yet. But what I did find out is you can print them off, but that's free.
Are you saying if you find an article, they will republish it at a
No.
different level, or it tells you what the level is?
Newsela almost, to me, looks like Scholastic for kids. It's got the current event articles that are appropriate for kids and what they learn. It's not going to have the adult stuff.
Right.
But within it, once you click on it, you can actually put it down to a Lexile of the choice that you need.
That's amazing.
So in the elementary levels, it's huge because half the time they can't read all of that stuff anyway. You bring it down to their level.
Is it CELFA?
Newsela is newsela.com.
News.
Yep. And it's just a website. It's also an app if you want it. So if I'm in Clearly and I say, okay, that was great, but now I need to go back, I just click that little arrow and I'm back to the regular website.
So you have to click that little icon when you're in your paper.
Right. But like Pam was talking about, I didn't have to copy this entire article, paste it into a Google Doc, share it with people. I'm on one web page. I click that button, boom, it's clean. That's the power of extensions. It's not a standalone. It's extending your browsing history and your performance. Again, that's why I pushed that one out.
It also magnifies it, doesn't it?
It can, yes. Yep. Right, for kids with, or for anybody. I shouldn't say kids. Absolutely. Yep. Another one that I love a lot, because of the tab problem that I have, I think it's actually going to be called, be labeled at some point, is this one tab feature. I'm afraid to do it with this many tabs with this, but I'll do it. So I click one tab. Oh gosh, that makes me nervous. It took all of my tabs except for the pinned tab. Now,
That's what that does.
pinned tabs don't go away because you've actually told it, don't ever get rid of this. To pin a tab, all you have to do is two-finger tap on your mouse trackpad and click Pin Tab. And what it does is it shrinks the tab down small enough so that you can't accidentally delete it with that X. I will pin Gmail, Google Drive, and Calendar every single day for that reason. Because I don't know how many times I'm doing stuff really quick and I close the tab. I've never closed one of those
So
three
you
tabs.
pin it every day?
No,
Or
I actually...
it saves it once you pin it for eternity, or
Right.
what?
Plus, how many times do you actually shut down your machine nowadays?
Well, that's
Once
what
every 3
Karen
weeks, right?
Hosmer, when I got mine yesterday, Karen Hosmer saved it. So when I turn on my computer, it opens up browser Chrome and it opens up 4 tabs: email, YMS, the important ones.
Yep.
So how is that different than pinning?
That is anytime you launch it. So if you were to restart your machine and pull it back up, you're going to get all 4 with a pin tab that doesn't work.
Okay.
Eric, can you show us again how you put it?
Sure. 2 fingers on the trackpad. I'm on a large tab. If I 2-click, I get this little screen, and then pin tab is that 4th one down. This one's huge too, by the way. Reopen close tabs. So if you accidentally close tabs, 2-tap, reopen them all up, bingo. By the way, it's rare, but how many people have had Chrome die on them halfway through? All right, good. At least one person. I was gonna be like, what am I doing wrong? All right, good. The beauty though of Chrome usually is when you relaunch it, it says, would you like to reopen all those tabs that were just open? It's not like the old days of Safari and Firefox where you're like, oh, there's my 30 tabs, right? All right, let's get back to one tab. I'm going off on tangents and I apologize. So one tab takes all of your open tabs that aren't pinned and crunches them down into one. That saves your computer space, time, and battery life because this one tab is not checking the 15 tabs that if they were still open constantly to see if there's updates to the page. The other beauty of this is right here, shares a web page. Let's pretend instead of the 15 tabs that are currently open, those tabs were on an endangered animal in 3rd grade, right? So I have 15 web pages that I know is geared for my kids. I don't have the time to put all that on a web page. I clicked one tab, I click share as a web page, and I tell the kids to go to that page and they're already there for them. If they're with iPads or tablets, the QR code's immediately available. If they're on Chromebooks, there's one more extension I like to use, and it's called the Google URL shortener. It's this little vice grip. When I click it, it'll shorten it. No more pasting, copy pasting, trying to figure out how to update a web page. I one-tabbed all my resources, shared as a web page, and then found a quick and dirty way for the kids to get there.
That little ping that Deb was using before.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that in a second.
That's another way to do
Yep.
it, to share.
Yep. Be careful with that one, but yes.
Okay.
All right. So I no longer need that web page. Oh my gosh, I need my tabs back. Not a problem. Restore all. This may take a little bit, so I'll talk while it's going, and I'm restoring my tabs back. Okay. So I think I'll flip over while these are loading. After one, I can't do it again, but after one tab, I just click the button called Restore All Tabs. And it pulls them back up. Yep. Okay, so we talked about all of these that have been pushed out to you. Any questions about the 4 that have been pushed out? Everybody see a value in them?
Yes.
I mean, should I retract any of those?
No.
All right.
Wait, clarify one thing.
Sure.
So you had all the tabs, you clicked one tab, you can make a short URL of that one tab.
You have to make it a page first. So there's a little button in one tab that says share as a web page. It takes your tabs and literally makes it public web page.
Oh, okay. And then I can make a short, and then I can make a URL and send that to students, and they'll have it.
Any other questions about those 4? Because I knew everybody would have them, or they should, unless there's an issue going on.
That's not how you're supposed to do, is it? What are your questions?
What are your questions? 1, 2, 7. Okay. Let me go over to some that I use that I'm not going to push out to you. One that I love is Google Voice. But in order to do that, you have to set up your Google Voice first. Here's why I did it. Here's why world language teachers should do it. How many times have you gotten into the situation where you want to communicate with parents or kids or other people at home, but you don't necessarily want to give them your personal phone number, and yet you can't give them the school extension, although it's coming with voice over internet phone, because you're not going to get it until the next day at school, right? Google Phone is an internet number, so I give them my Google Phone number. I can tell Google Phone to ring my other devices or nothing at all. So it literally is voice over internet phone without calling the company in, without paying any money, by the way. So with Google Voice, I can tell it to ring my phone, ring my laptop, ring my iPad, any combination of those 3, or none at all. Well, you're thinking to yourself, well, why would you give out a phone number that you're never going to answer or ring anything, right? The beauty of it is it actually will email you the voicemail message, and it'll attempt, it's getting better, but it'll attempt to put the speech into text and email it to you as well. So you get it in an email in 2 forms. Both as a WAV file so you can listen to it, and as a text, or as an email in text is what I'm trying to say. Here's why world language teachers should use it. How many times have world languages? Yeah, French teacher, Spanish teacher, German teacher. Yeah. Or rural teachers. Yes, rural teachers should use this because they don't have internet anyway. Never mind.
Been a long day.
Yeah, right. I apologize. We overwhelmed it because I had 3 hours of sleep. All right. I forgot where I was going. No, Google Voice. Here's why I think world language teachers would benefit from it. How many times do you try to do orals and you're thinking to yourself, how do I fit this into a day, right? Especially at the high school where how many students do you see in a day? Or within a week trying to pull off orals? I know you have the Dill Lab and that's certainly helped out. But in other areas where they don't have those, and I know this is used at the middle school, They will leave a message on their Google phone number, just like you would. Hey, you've reached Eric Lawson. Please leave a message after the beep. Although there's no beep in Google Voice, it just says leave a message. They will leave the message in the foreign language. And then tell all the kids for homework tonight, call this phone number, and they're not giving their home phone, they're giving the Google phone, and they dial in, they get the message, and then they have to respond in that tongue. They get the email, they get the WAV file, and everything's all in one place. So you can quite literally go into your email and grade 150 students worth of orals.
Wow.
How do you know they're not looking at
Google searching something?
Yeah.
I have a feeling the professionals in the back of the room, especially who teach world languages, could figure that out.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I was in Canada and I asked about Google Translate. I don't know if you know this yet, but Google Translate will allow you to go to a website and change it from whatever language it was in to a language you prefer, or one that you can read better than, because if it's anything other than a little bit of French and English, I can't read it. It also is a phone app, so if you're in China, you can literally hold your phone up. The picture that you see on the reverse side is in English when you're looking at signs that are in Chinese. It's pretty darn cool, but it's not perfect. Like for instance, the word tie in English, right? You can have a soccer match that ends in a 2-2 tie, or you could show up to school with a shirt and a tie. So when the kid hands in a paper, excuse me how I say this, but the soccer match ended in a 2-2 cravat, they use Google Translate, right? Because nobody would actually say that, but it
Could a custodian please come to the office or call in?
It converted tie into something that it wasn't supposed to, and it's not grammatically correct. It is something they know they're working on. It's still in beta, which means they're testing it out for the kids.
It's called Google Translate.
Google Translate.
In other languages, are there words that are spelled exactly the same but they have different meanings, or is that just English to confuse?
English is one of the worst at it, that's for sure. Another one I love, especially when I go to presentation or to conferences like this, is called the Save to Google Drive. And I think every kid should have this. The only reason I haven't forced it out yet is because we're not in a spot where we can't get away from a cart model in certain areas. And signing into Chrome in a cart model presents all kinds of problems. But I'm on a website, right? This has got several links and things. I could go file, save, bookmark, do all these things, and I'm gonna. It's just the way it is. I took notes, but if I take notes, I'm not listening to the person. I'm gonna lose something. If I click Save to Google Drive, it starts spinning, and it says, all right, I'm saving that right to Google Drive right now. It's a snapshot. It's not the full document, but it takes a picture. So on a Mac, remember, we can do Command-Shift-4 to get the little crosshairs. You can draw a box around. That saves to your desktop. Oh, now I got to share it with somebody. I got to put it back in the drive. Now I got to share it. Well, I just click one button. It's ready to share. And I can rename it and make sure it's in a spot I'm going to find it again. So I use that quite a bit.
Of the screen.
Of what's open in Chrome.
Right.
Yeah.
So more than the screen, like, does it take the whole document?
It takes whatever fits on that front page.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I mean, this isn't a hugely lengthy one, but it took that. It's not going to take 1 through 36 and make a picture of it. Good questions. Another one I use quite frequently is dictionary. There are several times where a kid stumbles across a word on a website, and most of the time in Chrome, if you double click it, it'll come up with the abbreviation and come up with a definition. The dictionary app, in many cases, will also do the pronunciation so they can listen to it, especially if they're ELL students or still learning to read. One that I've used for tutorials is called Awesome Screenshot. Just like the Shift Command 4, but it saves to drive. You can also annotate over the top, make little arrows, make little PDFs.
What's that called again?
This is called
Awesome.
Awesome Screenshot. Snagit is another one that does the exact same thing. Another one that well, if you're used to that, that's fine. But I know for a fact that if you have 45 things on your desktop, that's a whole lot harder for me to find and then put into Drive and then share with somebody than if it went right to Drive with a name I already know I'm going to use again. I like things to work with Drive too, because not that this happens often, but if I were to leave this somewhere or it's not coming with me, I can go to something else and it's readily available. I don't have to be on the exact same device. With saving to the desktop, you have to be on the same device.
What's that one called?
Awesome Screenshot. And snag
So
it.
what can it do if you add effects to the screenshot?
Yeah, you can annotate over the top. So you can put arrows or highlight things.
Oh, so very helpful if you're trying to make a tutorial of how to get through something,
Yep.
a website or whatever.
Exactly. Another one on the library side of things that I use a lot is called EasyBib. This is a bad example. Let me go to Do I still have that article open somewhere? No, I lost it, of course. Well, we'll try this. So easy bib. Some people call it cheating. I call it helpful. Do I think citing sources is important? Yeah, I will never say no to that, especially being the director of library. But having the kids go through and learn APA, MLA format, especially at the younger levels, I think it's still important at the upper grades and then, of course, in continuing education. What this does is it starts them. It plows through the website and it gives information it can quickly find. It doesn't do it for them. It does part of it for them. And I think that's huge because it's a time saver. It gets them thinking along those same lines, yet then they still have to go and try and find some of the stuff that this didn't do for them. The minute you say create citation, it gives it to you in the format. Then you can copy that and put it to the website. And if you went to Alice and Nadine's session earlier this morning on citation, right inside of Google Docs, there's a toolbar where you can do the Google search, click cite, and it does it in MLA or APA immediately. Hugely helpful.
Does this one only do MLA, or did you say you could change
I believe if you sign in, you can get it to change to APA, but as a default, it's MLA. Yeah, good question. One thing that we're going to start, one that made headlines, LastPass. How many passwords do he has, right? 70, 80, 90? If you're like my dad, right next to his computer is this notebook with about 45 pages of passwords. So if anybody were to ever break into his house, they've got everything. LastPass is a single sign-on app. So you literally go into it the first time and say, here are all the accounts I have, and you sign into them. Then LastPass. Yep. So then you create one username and one password for LastPass. Before you go anywhere, this will be the tab that opens up most likely as soon as you start, is LastPass. You sign into LastPass. From there, you can go anywhere without ever entering another username because you've already entered it once, and it keeps it. They claim they're the Swiss bank vault of passwords. The reason why it made news is because they were recently hacked. Nothing, according to them, got stolen that had anything to do with passwords or accounts. It was all about where the people were trying to get into it from. I don't know. That worries me a whole lot more, actually, than the notebook on the desk. But
so if it's on your laptop, it's the same password would work on your phone if you have a new phone.
Correct. Yep. Be careful with that one. One that you're going to start to see more and more of is this Google Chromecast. I know in other districts they use a lot of Chromecast. In this district we were big on Apple TVs, still are, but we're moving in all kinds of directions based on need. So an Apple TV works perfect if you're in all Apple school and anything Apple is being transmitted wirelessly to the board. I'm not wirelessly, but if there was an Apple TV sitting on this, we could all do it. Yes. Anybody have an Android phone? So you couldn't broadcast your phone though. That stinks. And if you're in 5th and 6th grade this year and everybody's walking around with Chromebooks one-to-one, none of the kids can present. That stinks.
Yeah.
Back to hardwiring. Just cool. But then everybody's tethered, right? Chromecast is a little HDMI pen drive is what it looks like. It pops into a TV, a projector, or anything with an HDMI port, and anything that's now in Chrome automatically goes up there. So my Apple device, my Android device, my Chromebook, the one tab that I'm seeing is what you're seeing because I'm casting it. I can then let go of control and tell a kid in the back of the room to cast without ever leaving their seat. A lot like Apple TV, different functionalities. The one downside to Chromecast that I've seen is that it can't broadcast everything on your screen, only what's inside of Chrome. So if we were to do that Google Lit trip and I went into Google Earth, I couldn't share it via Chromecast yet. It's coming. I'm going to skip over a couple of these admin tools, but one of the other ones that I use for video tutorials is Screencastify. With a Mac, you get QuickTime, which means you can do a screencast. It records what you're doing on the screen, much like I'm doing right now with the Hangout, and then I can save it and share it to my kids. Screencastify does the same thing, but instead of you having to download it to your desktop, pushing it somewhere else, putting it on a website, it goes right to Google Drive Share it. So if I click Screencastify, and it loads for a second, I have the option to show my desktop. I have the option to show my cam. I also can do the embedded cam, which I really like. I'm waiting for Hangouts to really pull this off. So that right now, if you're in Louisiana watching this, hey everybody, you're just seeing the screen and you're hearing my voice. You don't get to see me. With Screencastify, if I turned on that embedded webcam, you'd see the screen and a little tiny portrait of me talking in the lower right-hand corner or left-hand corner. That's pretty cool. That's how a lot of people are flipping their classrooms now. So they're showing the videos to the kids at night. They're coming in and working on individual work during the day. And everything gets saved to Google Drive. We already talked about these last. Middle school, how many people are on Pinterest? there's a Pinterest extension. Okay? So basically, you're on a website, you click the Pinterest extension, it says, what would you like to pin? You grab the element off the page, and it goes right to your Pinterest account. Pretty cool. Mastery Connect has basically the exact same thing. So those of you at the middle school, Mastery Connect is what you use to tie the standards in with the kids. It's the grading portal that everybody uses. They click that, just like Pinterest. You find the element on the page that you want to attach to your lesson planning in Mastery Connect. So it could be a picture, it could be text, it could be a bunch of things. Okay? And then there's Google Tone, which we've heard about. So what does Google Tone do? Google Tone came out about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. So there's a lot of things that have to happen for Google Tone to work. So do you want to try an experiment?
Sure.
All right. It may be a complete epic fail here, but I'm willing to go for it. Why not? So what Google Tone does in theory is whatever tab I'm on, when I click the Google Tone extension, as long as my speakers are on, anybody in the room who also has the Google Tone extension, and the microphone's not muted because it's shouting to you listening, you'll get a little pop-up bar in the top right-hand corner that says Eric Lawson is sharing you this link. So let's try it. I'm going to click on Google. Oh, yeah, I got to make sure my, all right. Everybody get a pop-up? That's what I'm wondering. Some people have the tone extension, some people don't.
I got lots of time to get this one.
I'll try it one more time. I probably have to plug it
Oh,
in.
I got it.
Did you get it?
No beep, but I got you.
I didn't get it.
Jesse, can you do it to me? Yeah.
I just did.
Thank you. So this is what it would look like from the opposite end. Jesse just toned me, and I get this. Okay, and if I click URL from Jesse Phillips, it goes to whatever tab she was in when she toned me.
Good, then you learn something good.
Okay? I can see some great things with this. Imagine very first day back, there's 325 of us huddled into the auditorium back here, and somebody says, I want to share something with you, and anybody with a device automatically gets this pop-up, you're on the right page. That could be fantastic. But then again, if all the kids have it as well, there's no one-way directional only. So you can picture hearing this all day long if I force that on you.
Yes.
Yeah, just.
And again, it's not forcing me to the tab. I literally had to click it to say I do want to open it. I trust Jesse. Well, I do now that I've seen the tab open. But you may want to be careful on how much you use that for those reasons.
Okay.
Yeah, use that one sparingly. And again, if you get to the point where you've got more extensions than please don't do that. But if you get to the point where things are being bogged down, you're noticing your battery's going dead in 2.5, 3 hours rather than the 7 that it's supposed to, although I've never seen it go 7 unless you're not doing anything on it at all. Make sure you click the 3 hot dogs, click on settings, go to extensions, and get rid of the very last one that you think might be the problem. So in this case, I might say, you know what, I don't need this. I'm just going to disable it. And it got rid of it off the top of my screen. Like, oh, we're not going to be taking this year. See you later, Smarter Balance. Oh, difference. I apologize. If you see a building next to it, it means it's a domain app. You can't disable domain apps. Only the domain administrator can. If it's got a trash can next to it, it means it's one that you've added, and certainly you can delete it. By the way, a question came up earlier. If I disable it, is there anything wrong with that? No, if you disable it, it gets rid of the functionality of killing your battery. It just puts it out of sight, out of mind. So level 1 is sort of disabled. If you really know you're never going to use it again, then go ahead and delete it. The reason why I don't delete right away is because I don't want to have to go back and search for something that I can't remember the name of if I think it may work again or I may need it in the future. I mean, there are certain times right during the year where you could see yourself using some of these extensions greatly, and then other times you're like, nah, I don't need those right now. Like I've certainly gone on binge of Screencastify and some of those to make movie tutorials, and then once the school year hits and I don't have the time, it's like, yeah, I'll disable those for now and I'll pull them back up when I have some time. That's okay.
Nick had to go into my account last week and
I wouldn't trust
disable a ton of things.
I wouldn't trust you either then.
Well, I'm sure you're not surprised that it had been like hijacked by something.
Oh.
And I had all sorts of extensions that I didn't put on.
Hmm.
I don't know how that
That's
happened.
weird.
but Fixed.
I don't know how that happens. I don't know how that always happens to me.
So when you go on like the Snagit or Awesome,
Screenshot.
screenshot,
Yeah.
It explains how to do it when you want.
Yeah.
See, I have a question.
Yeah.
I had, so on Pinterest, I just tried doing it, and it says that I have it, but it's not up there. Where else would it be? Like, it's not.
Oh, it may, sometimes you see it in the URL bar when you're on a certain page. So for instance, let me get to something. One I forgot to tell you about. So I'm on a web page that has a fair amount of text on it. I get this little purple puzzle piece, which is called Read Write. Read Write works inside of Google Docs as well. But Read Write, when you click on it, gives you this toolbar at the bottom so you can highlight things. You can have it read to you if you need to. We pushed this out to all the students. We initially pushed it out to all the staff, and then people hated the purple puzzle piece for some reason, so I got rid of it. I don't know. But if you go to Google Docs, I'm not going to show you that one because that might be in tomorrow's keynote. It hangs down, and some people didn't realize that if they just click this, it goes back up, and that was the only complaint. But it's great. It works better inside of Google Docs than anywhere else, but it is working quite well on the web itself. Read and Write by Text Help. They actually donated some prizes for tomorrow afternoon, not night. I won't be
Is
here.
there a better app or extension for a thesaurus?
Thesaurus.
That-
Yeah. Yep. That is the best one.
Okay.
And Google puts it out.
Here?
Yes.
I thought you were talking about.
It should be called Matter.
Did you ever use Pages?
Try
Yeah, okay.
if you do a search.
What's my experience with Pages?
Yeah.
Because last year, all the students were using Pages. Yes. And then I want them to share it to me using Google Drive. Yes. But in order to do that, they had
So
to
where would
download
the
the
Pinterest
document
be if it did, you know,
and convert it to
Try.
like a Google Doc
So
file.
just try opening a tab to render.
Somehow they had to download it, save it to. There you go.
I wonder what's more ideal. They're not very compatible.
Yeah, because then sometimes they'd send me a version and it would look like.
So,
You know?
something just came up that I want to make sure you're all aware of as well. Not all extensions apply up here. I would say probably 95% of them do appear up here. Sometimes they don't though. So for instance, on that Read Write, it shows up in the URL bar. It'll only show up when it's going to work. So if you're like, where the heck did that go? It's because it wouldn't work on that web page. I have another one that when I'm inside of a Google Doc, I get this little Gubrick guide. Okay, and Gubrick is a living rubric that you can attach to any Google Doc to share with students. They can interact with it and you can give feedback that way. But it won't show up, obviously, unless I'm in a Google Doc where I can provide the feedback. It'd be silly if I'm on Nate Kellogg's website, which I don't even own, and Gubrick popped up, right? Because I can't give him a rubric on something I don't own, or that I wouldn't be evaluating him on.
If you're on a web page that does the read and write, how do you get the toolbox?
Sure. So you just click on the little purple puzzle piece.
Well, when I click on the little
Phone Matt, will you please check in with the office? Phone Matt to the office.
Oh, right. Can I share this for a second? So some of you have probably seen this screen, right? So it's an extension or app that you've installed, and the first thing it asks you to do is, it okay to use pretty much everything that you own inside of Google Drive, and you don't read it, and you say yes? Fine, I do it too. It's okay to do. Don't get scared by it. It's like the 84 pages you have to say yes to in Apple that nobody's ever read except for a few lawyers.
and just do the first one.
Yeah, exactly. And they know you for life. Hey, they do anyway. No. Not in Google Apps for Education, not as much as the regular Google. But you do have to say accept before it ever becomes available. If you are then worried about something, or it seems like, as Kathy said, she believes she got hacked, just kill the extension. It'll actually sever the tie. It's not like stuff still gets to them somehow.
But now it's still.
Try to refresh the page. Oh, actually, is it full, or is it like grayed out? It's not grayed out because it's purple, but you know what I mean?
Yes, you can make it.
It might be that page isn't supporting it.
Yes.
Try another page, like msn.com. All right, what questions do you have? We only have about 6 more minutes. It's one of those things, just like in the last session. We're going to need some time to digest, some time to play, some time to look through that list. But please use that list rather than trying to just dig. I think it'll help out quite a bit, especially if you have certain criteria you're looking for. If you click on these, a table of contents, it'll just drive you down to the page to whatever you're looking for. And literally, if you see something that you absolutely think should be on this list, tell me and I'll add it to the list so that it's there for everybody. Or if you see something that you said, hey, I clicked on, the link seems to be broken, it's not working anymore, I took off TLDR for that reason. Okay, just let me know.
How do you get the most of that?
If you click the purple puzzle, you see it. Yeah, URL bar.
This one just said it could change the data.
Which one did?
The voice.
Yes. It changes it because it has to convert the speech to text to speech.
Okay.
You're
It
okay.
doesn't.
It's not, yeah, it's not going to take school things and start modifying.
Okay.
It is a little frightening. Change my data, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's like when they say change your data plan on your phone, you're like, come on, again? Any other questions?
Okay, so I just got an app. No, it's an app, the Thesaurus extension app. But I don't know where it went. So
If it's an app, it's not going to appear at the top.
yeah.
You need to open up a new tab and then click apps,
Oh,
and then they'll start to appear here.
thank you.
And you can have multiple pages just like on an iPad where you cycle through.
Okay. Okay.
Good question. No, it's a great question.
When I click on your list.
Yeah.
Like, to try to go to one that's not working.
Which one?
A couple that I wanted to try to snag it. Snag it.
Really?
Neither is
Not
awesome.
Google. Like when I use it.
Snag it, snag it, snag it.
Error occurred, I don't know.
It does pop up on the side.
Something's going on with the laptop then. So snag it. The link is working. It's something to do with your internet connection or something like that. That's self-staggered. You try refreshing. It just might get stuck in a loop. I know for a while there's something in here that as well. So as a teaser, I won't go into too much, but as a teaser, if you're interested in add-ons as well, which work with Drive, one of the ones I really like, which is also an app, is called ChiXena. As you know, inside of Google Docs, you can highlight something and add a comment, which shows up almost like a sticky note on the side. So you're not actually changing the student's work, you're just giving feedback. But if you were to write anything more than 140 characters, it starts to scroll down the page, and then if you start to overlap, it truncates, and it gets very confusing for kids. And if you're writing in a different language, then it's even harder to try and figure out how that all works. ChiXena allows you to provide voice feedback on Google Doc comments. So if I'm inside of a Google Doc, and I click on my add-ons, and again, I'll go into this more another day, and I open up Kazano Mini, it'll shift my screen off to the left for a second. And on the right, I get this bar that allows me to do a lot of things with voice feedback. It works for both ways, too, students and staff. So you can say, I really like where you're going with this intro, but I think you're missing some of the key details that are going to set up the plot. You might want to take a look at, already I'm past what I would want to type in the comment, right? Otherwise it's going to get too cumbersome. But I can leave the voice and they can just listen to it. And then when they finish it, resolve. Again, that's not what we just talked about, but it's a teaser for the market. I know you want to play, and we have our closing here in a couple minutes. Our closing is actually with Nate Kellogg. He's going to do how to use Google Hangouts more effectively to do meetings, especially if you can't be face-to-face in a room. And you may want to start to use it like I did with broadcasting a little bit, especially with kids.
Do you think that's better than Skype?
I do. Archiving Skype's difficult. This is all inside, and you don't have to give kids another thing. How many times have you seen teachers try new things? And it's not a bad thing, but they try new things and they're all over the map. Especially as a past tech integrator, it gets difficult to walk into one room, somebody's doing something, walk into another room, it's almost something completely different. Trying to get people on the same page can be cumbersome, right? I actually don't mind if people try new things. But one of my rules has always been, if you can't sign in with Google, don't do it, because now you're asking kids to remember yet another account. And then it also messes things up. High school, they can get the email, they can do it themselves. Middle school, we have to open up things, do it. The elementaries, the teacher has to set up all the accounts first. It gets cumbersome. So that's kind of been my set rule. It doesn't mean you all have to adhere to it. It's just,
I was thinking more of like an adult meeting.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, how many meetings have you gone to where half of it could have been emailed to you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so do we really have to drive over to somewhere to listen to a half an hour of an email before we get into the real meat? Or could we sit in our desk while we're still dismissing kids and not having to leave early or whatever it is we're doing after school, listen in on the Google Hangout, provide feedback when we need to for the office, you know, the rundown, and then finally get some good conversation going. And if you can then archive it easily to YouTube and then share it with everybody else who couldn't make the meeting, oh, now you don't have to take notes.
True.
Right? Yeah. So there's a lot of differences there. So, and I'm sure Nate has more, so we want to get in there so we can listen to him as well. So thank you for coming in. And again, if there